Welcome to part 2 of our guide dog training extravaganza.
We are so excited to be continuing this episode, so stick around. Hello and welcome to Rare with Flair,
the podcast where two best friends with the same rare disease are living our best lives. I'm your host, Cassandra.
And I'm your host, Casey.
Welcome back to part 2. We're actually recording this on the same day as we're recording part 1, so we don't have much more small talk to add.
Yes, but we are back and we're so excited. If you have not heard part 1 of Cassandra's guide dog adventure, we introduced her dog to the audience, Anaheim, who is sitting right next to you right now. And he's absolutely magical. So yes, if you haven't heard part 1, we definitely recommend you go listen to that. And we talked about her getting there, the meeting process. It was a lot of fun. It was great. But now we're really going to dive in. We're diving in, Cass. We're diving into the meat. And, normally we do a little catch up at the beginning of the episodes, but we kind of did that last time. So I'm ready. I don't know about you. I'm ready to dive back into guide dog. All right, let's jump right in. So, okay. You have your dog now, right? You're at guide dog school. You just got your dog. You met your soulmate dog. What now? Yes. What is happening?
Yeah. So it's interesting. And I think to set some context, it might help to know maybe what working a dog is like. If you've never seen how a guide dog works or have never had the experience of working a dog, it is really unique. So, when you're walking somewhere, you're going from point A to point B, somewhere familiar. You know the way, you know the turns, you know the intersections you might have to cross. But when you've got a guide dog, all of that needs to be broken down into individual pieces before you can put it back together and then have it feel natural. So what I mean by that, it's not just point A to point B, but it's more like this part is straight and then we have to make a turn. And so every piece becomes smaller. Turns, and then you stop at every curb, right? So you then have to know exactly where the door is that you're going to be entering. And that's where O&M comes into play, orientation and mobility skills, which I've talked about before. But it's kind of again, I keep using a driving analogy because I think it makes sense to our sighted friends. But even if you can't drive a car, you know that when you learn to drive, you can't just hop into the car and go to where you need to go. You need to actually learn how to operate the blinkers, how to actually turn the wheel all the way to the right? So it's similar with guide dogs where you need to know the semantics. Even if also another good example is if you've ridden a horse before and not just as a pony ride where someone else is controlling the reins.
Giving the horse direction and controlling the
reins.
Yes.
You are on top of that horse and you have to know how to give it the correct commands in order to get what you want from your horse.
Yeah. You hit your leg on one side or all that kind of.
Or you can stop them, you can do an about turn. So there are so many similarities in it, except obviously dog is smaller. And it's not like walking a dog where you're the one in control. When your dog is guiding you, so you're hanging on to the rigid kind of 90-degree bar of the harness that they wear, that dog is pulling you. You are not walking that dog.
That dog is walking you.
Yeah, it's literally when we're working and I give guide work commands forward, halt, left and right. Anaheim is pushing into the chest strap of his harness and there is tension up through that harness and my hand is extended in front of me because he's actually pulling me in a direction. And so he's the navigator, but I'm the captain. So I need to know how to tell him to go and do what I want, but I'm not the one doing it.
Yeah, you're steering the ship, but he's the ship.
Right?
Like, you're the captain of the cruise ship, but he's the boat.
He's the boat. Yeah. So it's really, it's interesting. Or even if you're like walking your dog on a leash, like you can walk a guide dog on a leash. Heeling is, as we say, so they're kind of at your side and not in front of you. When you want to turn, you just pull that dog next to you and you pull it and you turn. Right.
With my non-guide dog, Rupert, I pull him where I want him to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why it's super important to have this like training program, because even if you've worked a dog before, you haven't worked with this dog before. And so you need to understand how that works. And also like go back to basics. In the case of returning guide dog handlers, maybe unlearn bad habits that you had picked up, or shortcuts, not even bad habits, but just things that you and your previous guide did that were kind of your own language. And that worked for you guys, but this dog doesn't know any of that. So it's interesting and super fun and involves like a lot of mental work, but also, just being present and having fun with your new dog.
Yeah. Okay, so you're there for 2 weeks, as you've said, but I know they're both kind of different, what you're doing on each of the weeks. So, like, can you just, like, break down overview of the 2 weeks for us?
Yes. Okay, so, yeah, we covered Sunday, Monday, that first Sunday, Monday, which is, arrival and dog day. But then the rest of the time you're at training, that first week is called kind of week 1, right? Yep. And week 1 is very much fundamentals of working a dog. So everyone in your class is going to be together. And most days include discussing lectures that we have listened to prior, which I mentioned in the last part. And then we put it into practice and do Juno, which, again, I explained on the part 1 of this series. And then since Guide Dogs for the Blind has 2 different campuses. There's one in Boring, Oregon, which is really funny, but not so boring now.
I literally thought you were like calling it boring. Okay.
No, wow. That's the name of the town.
Yeah, you've told me that before, and I forgot, and I thought you were being, like, rude.
I feel rude Oregon. Saying it. Like, I'm insulting Oregon. Boring old Oregon.
Oregon. That's hilarious. I love that.
But then the other one is in San Rafael, California, which... It pains me to say, but all of the local people call it San Rafael, and as someone who speaks Spanish, it's not supposed to be pronounced like that, but I will accommodate to the regional pronunciation.
It's fine, yeah. We'll let it slide.
So you go to downtown San Rafael, since I was on the California campus, and that's also where I went for Romana, and you practice basically a basic route, and you do that pretty regularly those first several days, just so that you have more of a controlled environment, so that you can really focus on your dog and what your dog is doing and how you can react to what your dog is doing or not doing. And your trainer is there. Those first few routes, they have like a mini leash basically connected to your dog too, just in case something gets really wonky. But little by little, as you guys gain confidence, your trainer is still there, or like your instructor. They're like not the same thing, but I use them interchangeably. I know it's bad. Anyway, so your instructor will still be there and help you in case of any unique situations. But that's a lot of that first week. Week 2 is more just customized training based on your needs. If you leave a very predictable life and don't go many places, honestly, week 2 could be a continuation of week 1 and do similar routes around a small town. And that's totally fine. But your instructor kind of helps put together what week 2 could look like for you and your dog. And in my case, and I had a partner in training who also lived in kind of a major metropolitan area, so it worked together that, the 3 of us, so my partner and our instructor, and then also, of course, our dogs, we were in a lot of different unique environments that are just possibilities. So that includes like city travel. So we went to San Francisco for a day.
Fun.
Taking transit. Let's see. You can navigate campuses. So places that don't have like regular pedestrian travel. You know, people are crisscrossing and going different directions, and there are big wide spaces and sidewalks, and it's a unique environment for a dog to have to navigate. Escalators, areas without sidewalks. One thing that everyone does do that week too, and we'll talk about that later, is what they call the traffic route or traffic checks. Basically, it's a controlled situation where the class supervisor will get in a Prius that's labeled appropriately so that people don't yell at them, but they still do. And they try to just cut you off in traffic or put you in a potentially dangerous situation just so that you know how your dog is going to react in those situations, because it will happen when you work your dog.
Yeah. Oh, it will.
And so while we don't necessarily want to do that all the time, like we don't want to test our dogs and put them in harm's way on purpose, it's really helpful while you're in the controlled class environment so that you can recognize these behaviors when they happen eventually.
Yeah. Keyword controlled environment. But they will, I mean, if you're a frequent traveler, they will eventually, things like that will happen. So it's good to know that your dog is prepared.
Absolutely. And that's a big reason why I still want to continue working guide dogs, is because that aspect of safety is something that a cane cannot do. As someone who's been hit by a car with a white cane, like while I was crossing the street, I know that doesn't happen with a cane.
Arguably, when crossing a street, I do think a cane is better than no cane. But a guide dog is better than cane. You know, I think the order would be like guide dog is the safest, then the cane, then no cane. Because people do sometimes pay more attention to a cane. Now, some people obviously don't, in your experience. But, you know, I think no cane would be the least safe if we're traveling.
Definitely. Yeah. But also in between the 2 weeks, you have like one Sunday off where there's no instructional staff. And you basically get to do whatever you want. And in our case, it was really fun because a good friend who is also a GDB handler, her name is Rachel, and she lives out in the Bay Area, and she's part of the albinism community too. So Casey and I got to meet her at a NOAA conference like 2022 in Orlando. So her and her guide dog Scooter, which is so cute. I love his name. Cute. Came to visit us, and it was so fun to see them, and I got my nails done with them, and the dogs got to meet each other and play. It was a really sweet way to spend a free day.
And I love that, and I got to see the pictures. Super cute. Shout out to Rachel. That's so awesome. But I also want to say, in your free time, you often would FaceTime me, which was super fun, because not only did I feel like I got to kind of quote unquote bond with Anaheim, and I got to see him play, and you would play with his toys and stuff, but also we got to watch some shows. We watched a movie together, you and I.
We watched K-Pop Demon Hunters.
We watched K-Pop Demon Hunters, and so that'll always be a memory that we watched that with Anaheim. And we also started another cartoon, Star versus the Forces of Evil, not to get too off topic here. But I just wanted to say, like, I wanted to mention that since not only am I involved with those memories, but, like, to keep the memory. I want to remember that. I want to remember, like, when you had met Anaheim, what we were watching, what we were talking about, and I think that's, like, a fun memory, so.
It's so fun. Well, and because K-Pop Demon Hunters is so taken off, and every time I hear Golden, I just think of us watching it together, like those first 2 days that I had Anaheim, and it made it extra special.
It did. So, Cass, if you're cool with it, I would love to play some more of your memos. I think Cass has a lot of fun and interesting stories from those training days and from the routes that she took with Anaheim. Like there's a funny story about a bakery. That's my spoiler for it. She talks about her night route and other things like that. Traffic route. And so I want to play some of those for our listeners and hear your perspective in the moment. If you didn't hear the last episode, these are memos Cass recorded at training in the moment. So we'll play a few of those.
Okay, it's day 6. And
it's about lunchtime when I'm recording this memo. I wanted to note 2 different stories that are just awesome in different ways because I don't want to forget them. All right, number 1 is, so this morning we went out for our route in downtown San Rafael, and, you know, our instructor, our trainer was getting back further and further because we're getting more and more independent as a team. And, you know, to be fair, like, Anaheim's pretty easy to work with. So he had, like, our trainer hasn't had to intervene, like, too much anyway. But this morning we had a very unique experience because sometimes on our way to the van, they'll set up a different distraction each day. So, sometimes they've got a dog walking. Today we had quite a loud dog, a barking pet of one of the GDB staff members, and trying to see how our guides react and trying to manage them like appropriately. So, you know, if they're not distracted, then like stopping to praise them after we're a ways away, or if they do get a little distracted, trying to get their focus again by either verbal or like we can gesture a little bit with the leash, and then, or we can like kind of tighten the leash since the collar, the martingale collar has that chain, and, you know, we don't have to pull too hard, but that gives them sort of a cue of like, hey, bud, let's go. And if it's really, really bad, we can really do like what they call a correction, which is like a big, strong jerk on the leash, and get that big, quick collar pressure around their necks just so that they feel like, oh, yeah, gotta go, you know? And so Anaheim managed that well, but this was an unplanned distraction this morning. We had just started our route like very, very quickly, and there were multiple things going on, and I'm going to fill in the blanks because like I could kind of tell what was happening, but not fully. So there was a dog tied to a post. It was like later on, our trainer was like, instructor and trainer are like kind of interchangeable. I feel like I've used both terms, but he was like, there was like, it was a Brittany Spaniel, and I think someone had gone inside or something, and this dog was taking up like a good portion of the sidewalk. And Anaheim did a great job. He started moving around. But at the same time, there's like a bakery right nearby, and this guy is pushing like a huge like laundry cart of like maybe like day old bread. Like my instructor was like, it was like 300 pounds of bread or something. Like it was a lot. And because that other dog was kind of in the way, the guy pushing the cart had to make a quick maneuver. And honestly, what I felt as I was working Anaheim was that like we sort of just maneuvered around, but he didn't stop for too long. I think I gave him some like verbal encouragement, and he kept going. And after a ways away, I stopped and I praised him. But after our route, our instructor told us what happened is that also what I had no idea. When this guy moved the cart, like a bunch, like he's like 40 rolls fell on the floor. And like, I was like, he said it, internally he was like freaking out. He was like, oh my gosh, oh, this is like an impossible situation for a dog. And so he was like, it was crazy. It was like a cartoon. And I was stepping around them like landmines. And he didn't pick one up. And we honestly, like, if he did, I wouldn't have been super shocked. And our trainer said the same thing. He's like, it's, you know, I feel like if I were a dog, I would have taken a roll off the ground, right? But Anaheim totally ignored it. Like, he demolished that. And it was crazy impressive. The other thing that happened just now, we were playing a little bit. I was throwing the Kong across the room. And then he was bringing it back and fetching it. And then I threw it, and it bounced to on top of the container where his food is. It's like a sealed plastic box. Are like the 2 plastic food scoops. And I heard the Kong bounce and knock him onto the ground. And so Anaheim kind of was delaying. And so I told him that I called him back. And instead of the Kong in his mouth to bring back, he brought back one of the scoops of food. And I was rolling. It was so funny. I was like, yeah, I bet you want more food, huh? Like trying to pull a fast one on me. But it was so cute. It was really precious because all of a sudden I'm like, I can see that. The Kong is black and he's black. And so sometimes I don't always know when it's in his mouth. But it was so precious. The dog is incredible. I love him so much. Guys, wow. Today was a big morning because we did the traffic route, and meaning they call it traffic check when a guide dog has to navigate a challenging traffic situation, and they can do a lot of things depending on the context, right? So like, say a car cuts you off as you're trying to cross the street, a dog might stop, right? Or if a car is backing into you, your guide might back up, right? So it really varies, and part of training is that, guide dogs has these guide dogs meaning GDB, but they have these Priuses that they use for training purposes, and they have like a bunch of stickers on them that says like training in progress, whatever. But they basically like try to put us in situations where, our guide dog has to use their instincts and their trained behaviors together to keep us all safe. So it was really, really wild. I have to say, as someone who has been like seriously hit by a car, not just like tapped or like bonked in the intersection, but like full on carried on the hood of a sedan, like the first traffic check, it shook me a little. Like I was a little rattled. And I knew it was coming, and my instructor was super kind. Like he was like, hey, like he just gave me heads up when it was happening. And I told him before, I was like, dude, I'm nervous. But no, Anaheim did a fabulous job as per usual. He's Mr. Perfect. He's awesome. So he handled them all super well. It was very impressive. And after that first one, I had more confidence, and I feel like, I trust him even more now. I already was trusting him pretty quickly because he's really proven himself to be just so reliable that, I know that he's going to just do what needs to be done in the situation. And if I need to intervene, I need to intervene. But he did great. And tonight was a late night because for those that desire it, there's an optional night route. And, I don't do as much night travel as I used to when I got Ramona and I was in college, and we did a lot of stuff all throughout the day. But, nowadays I still do a little bit of night travel, mostly because it gets really dark really early in the winter. And if I'm coming home from the gym at even like 5:30, it's probably already dark in November. So it's just like worth doing, especially with the instructor supervising, and we had a great time. Anaheim crushed it. I tried to give him a little break in between so he wasn't super exhausted, but he's gonna sleep well tonight. And it was fun because it was just me and my instructor, and we just got to like hang out and chat, and it was it was a fun night. I'm so tired. Anaheim is busted. Like, he's exhausted. And, gotta get ready because tomorrow we're going to Berkeley. Guys, this morning we went to Berkeley, and I remember this being one of the hardest days, my first time in training with Ramona. And there are a lot of reasons why that is. Of course, like, I think a lot of them were just about my expectations, right? It's hard to understand what traveling with a guide dog feels like until you do it. I've been talking to my parents, obviously, and I was mentioning how it's so much easier this time around, for me at least, and that's, very different for everybody. A lot of people say the second dog is the hardest, just because you only have one experience and it's hard not to compare. But I think Romana and Anaheim are very, very, very different dogs. They almost are total polar opposites in the way that they handle different environments and even their personalities and just their look, obviously. But it was maybe Romana didn't do this very well, but Anaheim crushed it, or vice versa. Like, Romana actually handled that super well. And Anaheim probably still crushed it, but let's be so real. He's amazing. But also that he, maybe is different than her, right? And I don't really think that any of these differences, to me, have been extremely negative. In any case, I really am enjoying Anaheim himself. But yeah, Berkeley was tough because it's really hard to navigate in an area that doesn't have just really clear pathways. So if you're walking on a sidewalk, a lot of times you're just following that sidewalk. You're just going forward. You're going straight. And maybe you're making some turns when the sidewalk ends, or you come up to the curb and you cross the street. It's a little bit more clear cut, but in something like Berkeley, or campus environment is what they call it, right? There's, big, wide, plaza-like quads. There's winding paths. There's a lot of people walking around on scooters, on bikes. It's a lot to do, especially for a dog. So I think the first time I went, it was really challenging because I don't think I had correct expectations, and guide dogs are trained to walk on the left side, which is a little bit counterintuitive. Traffic, especially in the US, flows on the right. And if you're not on the right, it's very confusing for everyone coming on the other side of you. But there's a reason for this, right? It makes sense. Guide dogs are trying to give you the clearest path possible. They're trained this way so that they don't run you off the road, because it's hard for them to account for your space. And every person takes up a different amount of space, depending on how they are. So that was really stressful for me going to Berkeley the first time. I guess I didn't realize that was something that was innate for dogs. And, she really held her left line, as they would say, which was scary for me because I'm like, oh my gosh, are we going to get hit by a bike? This time, if you will, I know how to drive, is what my parents have been saying. I know how to drive, and I know what dogs are going to do. I have a better understanding of working with a dog, even if it's a very different dog, but just generally how dogs might behave in a certain situation. So it's not shocking to me when Anaheim hugs the left. It was actually still a really great experience. We walked through it was like a student activities fair, because actually classes are in session, which was actually really great practice for us. And so it was this big open quad, and there were booths and tables with tents on either side. It kind of felt like a farmer's market, but obviously then with students who were taking unpredictable paths, right? They were meandering, looking at the different possible clubs and sororities and things to join, maybe zigzagging, maybe they were stopped talking to people. So it was really unpredictable. So it was good for what they call crowd work. Not crowd work for like a comedy show, but crowd work for working a guide dog in a crowd. So Anaheim did really well. He did tend to move toward the left, but this is when teamwork comes in too. Like, I know what he's probably going to do so that I can sort of compensate. And you know what? It also just helps that he's a bigger boy. The dogs are incredible. I could say so much, but I think I'll leave it here. Oh my goodness. I talked to Anaheim's raisers, and they're so sweet. He was co-raised by two different women that both live in California. And it's cool. They have very different lifestyles. So one of them was
like she's out kind of in the middle of nowhere doing like lots of farm chores, like fast walking, going places, but like outside places. And then his other razor took him, like had more of like little city suburban vibe. They went to like the aquarium together, and it was just, it's so sweet. They were really, really nice and like super chill. You know, it's a hard thing that the puppy raisers are doing. Like fully acknowledge that they put like so much of themselves into such a young baby. And they really help get them through a lot of those difficult early stages, like potty training and things like that. And so it's really awesome. They were just really kind. They've raised some other successful guides before, so maybe they've got the secret sauce. I don't know, but yeah, they were also just very respectful, which, you know, not all puppy raisers are. It's hard to let go. It really is, especially when you spend maybe like a year with that dog. It's tough, you know, and not everyone is cut out for it, but they're like, yeah, that's the deal. Like, so I really appreciate that. And I'm really excited to meet them at graduation, and pretty much everything they told me about young Anaheim totally tracks with who he is today. He loved the aquarium, just staring at the fishes. And I thought that was cute because our boy is nosy. He loves to know what's going on. He's always alert, watching. So I think that's super cute. It makes lots of sense given who I know him to be, even after only a couple weeks. But I'm really excited. They're all coming to graduation. So it'll be really special for them to see him just like all grown up, you know, even though he's still a babe, but all grown up in a harness, like doing his job, right? Like, yeah, it's really great. So I wish all puppy raisers had that, like both that amount of love and that amount of like respect. But not all of them do. And it's kind of tough. So I really appreciate that.
All right. I love to hear the in the moment memos. I think that's really special that you did that. So thank you for taking the time to record those in the moment, because there's a lot you would have maybe forgotten. So
absolutely.
It's hard. And it's a lot. It's a lot. So.
I kind of treat it like, even though I know a ton of what I recorded is not going into the pod, and I knew it when I was recording it too, it was really fun for me to do because it felt like my own little diary, since, like I said, training can kind of become a blur after you get home and you're settling in with your new dog. It really feels like a different world. And so I'm glad to preserve some of that and that we can share it with the audience.
Yeah.
So sometimes, it's not that often, but a match might not work out. And I knew this going in. It's always a risk that you could go to class and come home without a dog. Which is really scary, especially since you wait so long, and to have to, I can't imagine the pain of going home without a dog. I can a little bit imagine, just because I was actually supposed to go to class in January of this year, but health situations prevented me from doing so right up to the very moment I was supposed to leave. And so I kind of understand that grief. But
yeah, definitely.
At the same time, it's really interesting. So again, I'm not going to like spoil anything, and I'm not going to say too much to protect privacy, but there were 6 people in our class, and one of the matches didn't work out. And it was really devastating, actually, for a lot of us there. And so it's hard because, you know, of course we missed our classmate that left, but also because, you know, it's hard when, again, you've waited for a long time for this and it doesn't always happen. But it was actually really, really sweet and special because toward the end of training, we have like our exit interviews with our instructors. In the middle, we have sort of our mid-training progress chat. But toward the last day, we have the exit interview. And so my partner in training was in the van, and I was also there with our instructor, and she was like, hey, so, was there a backup option for me? Because sometimes that's the case. If there are multiple dogs that could work for you, especially if your preferences are very open, or you have like maybe a moderate pace and, again, very open, you could have gotten multiple dogs, but they just kind of picked one. But it was really sweet because our instructor, Adam, was like, no for both of you. There were no other dogs. These were the dogs. These were the dogs. And if it didn't work, I don't know. Like, that would have been it, right? Like,
yeah.
And it was great because my partner got a really excellent match for her being in a metropolitan area. And of course, I got Anaheim, and he's amazing. And I can't imagine another dog getting matched for this moment and this stage. And like, it's special because it's such a high risk. But when it really pays off, it pays off. Yeah.
So I know, all this training and all this stuff, it's a lot of hard work, and it can be like emotional. It's like a big deal, and you want to celebrate it. And I know there's like a really special way that you all into this with a graduation. And we're going to go through all of it, how graduation works, who's there. And this is when you'll be able to really shout out a lot of your people. I was able to watch graduation virtually, and I'll talk about that experience too. But yeah, I would love to chat about that.
So as you guys heard the memo after I had talked to Anaheim's Razors, it was really, really fun because they all have the option to travel to graduation. Now, GDB allows people to raise dogs in mostly Western states. So, of course, California, Oregon, but also Washington. I think, I don't even know the whole list. But it can go as far as, like, Texas, which is pretty dang far. And Texas is huge. So the Razors are always kind of told, hey, like, I don't know fully what they're told. But basically, like, hey, your dog's in class, like, you are welcome to come to see them graduate.
Yeah.
And, it's an option. They don't have to come. But most Razors, if they can, will come to graduation. And so it's really, really cool to get to meet them in person. And Anaheim's Razors were maybe a couple hours away, which relative to some of the other Razors for dogs in our class, some of whom were from Texas and did come.
Wow.
Which is really impressive. It's just really cool to basically meet a part of your dog's past.
Yeah. And they, not to cut in too much, but
no, please.
His puppy Razors shared some stories about him at the graduation, and like I said, I watched it virtually, and it was really cool to hear their perspective and to get that perspective of how he acted when he was a young little pup. And he's still a young dog, but
he's a year and a half.
He's still
guys.
a pup. He's only a year and a half. He's advanced. But anyway, yeah, it was really cool to hear their stories about Anaheim, and something they said that stood out to me was how much he had even grown from when they raised him to the short amount of time, in comparison that he was at Guide Dogs for the Blind, and how much he had learned in that short amount of time. And he's a fast learner, so.
He's a fast learner. He, kind of blazed through training pretty well. And training for, actual guide work can take anywhere from, I don't know, it's usually, 8 weeks, maybe 12, right? And it depends on a lot of factors, again, that are mostly out of, the trainer's control. But yeah, so you get the dog handed off maybe when they're, about a year and some change, and then they have just actually a pretty limited time while they're at GDB, so that kind of goes to show.
Right.
He gained a ton of muscle, I think, is what they were also saying, because as they pull into their harness, especially in their chest area, they get, beefed out. They get jacked,
True.
But I'll also paste you'll find in the show notes the link to the graduation, so you can see all of the other classmates of ours that graduated, also like breeders that are in the colony now. But yeah, hear me wax poetic about Anaheim and how much I'm obsessed with him.
Yes.
Yeah. But before we get to the ceremony, I got to meet Anaheim's Razors in person, and it was lovely. They brought like their whole families. And it's obviously like a little bit bittersweet just because you know that you've had this dog for like 2 weeks at this point, and these Razors have given this dog like at least a year of their lives probably. And so you know that they have a strong bond with your dog, but you know, it's bittersweet for everyone involved because I'm like, oh wow, like basically thanks for pouring a lot of yourself into this dog that I'm gonna take home.
Oh yeah, I mean, what they do is amazing.
Yeah, it really is amazing. But it's also probably really sweet for them to see like, hey, look at this dog. Like I had them when they were just like a tiny baby, and they did all these goofy things. And now look at them. They're like basically graduating college, going to their first internship or big boy job.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's really cute. And so we all kind of meet them in a room, and it was sweet because he was co-raised, like I had said in the memo before, he was co-raised by 2 different families. So it was fun to meet them both. They had very different lifestyles they talked about at graduation. But like, it was also cool to meet like their kids, and I got to ask them some of their favorite things and memories about Anaheim. And sometimes there are gifts involved. So sometimes Razors will bring you something, some kind of token. So when I got Romana, I got like a little photo album of photos of her as like a baby girly. And I got some photo collages of Anaheim too. And then Romana's Razors had given me like, it was like a embroidered decorative pillow cover, and it said like, dogs leave paw prints on your heart. Mm-hmm. And then Anaheim's Razors, they do. Anaheim's Razors brought me this like adorable little shadow box with a picture of him as a little babe, and they have little puppy tags that go on their collars, which I just thought that was so sweet, and I really liked that token.
So sweet.
That was really cool. And you know, this year when I first got Romana, again, it was like my first time. I didn't really know that was like customary, and so I also wanted to like give a little token because I mean it's hard to know what to do, but I got my Razors some flowers, and I also coordinated with some of my other classmates who maybe they got their Razors flowers or they got some for their instructor. We all kind of pulled together to get some flowers for our class supervisor, which was especially, again, special for me because she was my instructor 9 years before. And so it was just really nice to be able to give back. Obviously, in the case of our class staff, yes, this is their job, but also, like, they're literally changing our lives.
Yeah,
so
yeah, they're doing so
how
much.
do we even begin to thank them for their dedication and answering calls and just, you know, dealing with dogs, which I'm sure they're not at all upset about. But,
yeah.
But still, like, it's a huge deal and a major honor. Like,
oh yeah.
Ugh, man.
Yeah. Amazing.
So it's really nice to be able to actually be able to put a little bit more thought into it and give back in at least a really small way for everything that everyone has done for Anaheim and myself.
Yeah. I loved watching the graduation. I watched it. My boyfriend and I sat on the couch and watched it together on that day because he was over here, and I was like, "We're watching this graduation," but he was happy to watch it as well. And we were looking for you in the audience because it was like a live stream situation with 2 different camera angles. And I saw you, and he was like, "Take a screenshot and text her that we see her." And so I texted her like, "I can see you," with like the eye emoji, and she was obviously busy being at graduation because it was a live stream. I was watching this a live stream, and Cass, you know, you got to hear his puppy raiser speak, which was really great, and then Cass did a speech, and I thought it was just a lovely speech and so sweet.
Thanks.
And It was just, the whole thing was really great, and I was so happy to see it.
It's really special because it really feels earned. Again, not every guide dog school, I talked about this in our guide dog episode from July, not every guide dog school does graduations, and that's fine. You know, there are the people who don't want to walk at graduation, and
Yeah.
that's okay. I respect that. But I'm a person who likes little ceremonies.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
So I don't, after all of the hard work and,
Yeah.
you know, effort that you put in for 2 weeks, even though it's not that long, it feels like a lifetime. And so I love that they have graduations at GDB. I think it's really special to be able to thank a lot of people, but also just to talk about what, you know, what makes this dog so special. Even if you've had a dog before, every dog is different. And guys, like, if you're going to go watch graduation, which I highly recommend you do, it's great. It's emotional.
Yeah.
It is so emotional. I think people who don't expect to cry end up getting choked up anyway. I was personally, hear me out, I was really glad I didn't cry at graduation because y'all don't know. So, like, I'm an Enneagram 8. I gotta keep my emotions on lock, okay? And not for, like, coolness reasons, but also just because what you don't know is that I cried a lot.
A lot.
During
You cried more during your time at this school than I have ever seen you cry in our entire many, like, over 10 years of being friends. Seriously.
Like, Casey,
You did.
You're a crier.
She was, I cry all the time. So this is normal
Casey cries
for me.
all the time, and that's not weird.
No, I cried all the time. But for you, it's a little different, and you were crying like every day I talked to you.
Every day I cried. Every day.
And this is not because she was sad by any means. It's overwhelming. It's exciting. It's all it's anxiety. It's all the emotions, but it's good emotions. It's not, we don't want people to think you were sad or anything.
No,
I mean, I hope people can see the how complex this is, and you're tired, and it's just a lot, and you're excited, and you're starting this whole new journey, and it's scary, and it's fun, and it's exciting, and it's emotional, and it's happy, and all the feelings. So
it's wild.
like,
it's wild, and being a GDB is like a bubble.
Emotional. Yes, right. It's like the Disney bubble where
it's like the Disney bubble.
You're in a different world for a little bit, and then you leave and you're back to your regular life. And I kind of, conferences can feel a similar way too, although not as long. Noah Camp to me felt kind of like a weird bubble of being with Noah. Like, none of it's exactly the same, but I can kind of understand what you're saying, just from different things I've experienced of kind of like, oh, we're going back to the real world now.
Yes.
But yeah, you were very emotional, and I think it was actually really, like, endearing, and I'm you were just really happy to finally be there after you had been through a lot trying to get there, and, it was exciting.
It was really exciting, yeah. And, like, I don't know, all of the staff were just so lovely, and you get to see so many familiar faces. It really feels like cozy and family and camp, and yeah, it's like, it's hard to then leave, especially, like, my classmates, I hope I'll see them again, and we've got each other's contact info, we can stay in touch, but yeah, you get close with them, and it's going to end, and it's hard, and so, like, also, I don't know, I think, emotional regulation is challenging, period, and I think I have ADHD, so even more so, but, like, it's so many feelings, and again, like Casey said, most of them were vastly positive, but yeah, it's a lot. So I'm really glad I didn't cry in public, but I definitely rest assured I cried so much in private.
Oh yeah.
After graduation is such a blur. So there's a bunch of people there. Actually, something that was super special was that, so my former manager at work, at Chase, where I work, he lives in, like, the Seattle area, but he has, like, family and is often in the Bay Area, which is kind of where I was. And I kind of had said as a joke to him before I left work to go to training. Like, LOL, if you're in the Bay Area, like, at the end of August, hit me up. And he was like, actually, I think I will be. And it's like, well, haha, come to graduation. Or don't. That's fine. And you can watch it online, too. And it wasn't until, like, 20 minutes before graduation that I got a text. He was like, I'm headed to graduation.
That's so sweet.
I'm running super late. And so it was actually really nice to see a familiar face, because when you're on the East Coast, obviously, like, your family probably isn't going to come to graduation, and it's not because they don't like you, but it's because you're leaving to go home the literal next day. And so
Right.
it doesn't really make that much sense. But if you're local, which some of our other classmates were, like, their families came, of course. And my parents watched, and so did my brother and sister-in-law, and even friends of mine were watching graduation, but they're not going to, like, physically be there.
Yeah.
But having someone that I knew, like, outside of GDB there was actually really, really nice and exciting. So it was cool to see him. I saw Rachel again. She was there with the Berkeley Puppy Raising Club, because one of the other dogs in our class came from that club.
Nice.
Obviously, then Anaheim's Raisers and family were there. So, like, you take a bunch of pictures. People are asking you a bunch of stuff. And it's, like, a lot for the senses. It was cool, though, because the club that Anaheim is from. So the puppy raisers operate in these clubs, and they kind of are good for, like, mutual support and checking in and whatever. But they were picking up a new puppy, so I got to see a new, like, baby puppy and hold it. It was so cute and warm and squidgy. Aww. His name was Jonathan. So good luck to Jonathan in the next year plus.
I love that.
But it was cool. But then, like, it all kind of winds down, and, like, your local classmates head home, and you start to say goodbye to the Raisers. And Anaheim, one thing that he's different in, of the many things of Romana, he's a little bit more vocal, which I think is kind of funny. And so since Adam, our trainer, also trained Anaheim, it was a struggle. It was a struggle a little bit for Anaheim, because he was like, Dad, as he would walk into the room in the morning, right? And so sometimes he would, like, let loose a little whine, you know, and I'm like, it's okay, buddy, you're fine, like,
yeah.
But his Raisers left, and he was a little sad. He was a little sad, I gotta say, and it's okay, and I respect that. But, you know, they were missed, and they're super, super sweet. I made a group chat with them that I called Anaheim Fan Club. So I periodically will send them pictures of what we're up to now, which is just, like, extra fun to stay in touch with them. And one of the last people, besides our other classmates that were there, I said goodbye to was Adam, our trainer and instructor.
Yeah.
And man, I can't say enough good things about Adam. I said most of them to his face. But he's like a big brother. Like, it's just super special. And, like, we've stayed connected. We continue to, like, you know, text periodically, or, you know, I send him updates about Anaheim too, because I know that, you know, he really, really loves this dog too. And of the 4 dogs that he was training at a time, when Anaheim was in his string of dogs, like, I like to pretend, he'll deny it if you ask, but I like to pretend that Anaheim is his favorite, because he's a really special boy. He's a big dude, and he's got lots of places to go and people to see.
He's a very, very special boy.
There are just so many really amazing people at Guide Dogs that, like, I want to shout out, because I love them and I miss them.
Rupert has something to say.
Does he?
He's just sitting there crying.
Oh, he's feeling emotional.
Do you hear him?
I don't, because you have your AirPods in. Oh, I do now!
That was Bunny's. Bunny was just saying, thank you, Guide Dogs, for the wine. Adam, you're awesome. He was just reiterating what you're saying. And he was also saying,
course.
I'm not guide dog, but I'm fun too.
But him, good boys.
But yes, please give all the shout outs.
Okay. So obviously huge shout outs, of course, to Adam and Chelsea that I've mentioned already. But major shout out to Nurse Andrea, who actually discovered our pod because I couldn't go to training.
That's awesome.
And she was Googling Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome, and she found this pod, which to me is a big testament of this pod and being a connection to Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome. But all of the nurses, Nurse Julie and Nurse Kathy, and all of the other great nurses I got to talk to, and the amazing RAs, Celia and Heather, and Jen and Marissa. Oh my gosh, trying to think. The kitchen staff, chefs Eric and Chris were like incredible. Oh my gosh. The volunteer who gave us a ride to the airport, Zach, super nice guy. The other instructors in our class, Jane and Palmer. I feel like I'm totally gonna miss so many amazing people. Of course, Anaheim's puppy raisers, Nanette and Melissa, super sweet people and their lovely families. I feel like, gosh, I'm totally going to miss someone, and it's going to be unfortunate. Oh, also Adam's wife, Kelsey, who also works at Guide Dogs and is amazing too. It's just a really lovely community at Guide Dogs, and I would keep going back there, like, time and time again. It's a really special place, and they, like, actively change your life. Like, I just, there's not much more to say. And, you know, if anybody is waiting, because a lot of people who are trying to get a guide dog are waiting, and I waited. They always say, like, oh, it's worth it and trust the process and whatever. And it's like excruciating, guys. Like, it's excruciating to wait. And I can tell you that firsthand. And like, you wait for that call that never comes. And then if you ever get a 415 area code call, like, you jump out of your absolute skin, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's so hard. But when you get a match like Anaheim, it's like, it does feel worth it. And you're like, boy, like, would I have gotten sooner? Yes, but it wouldn't have happened in this way with these people and these classmates and these instructors and these staff. And, you know, like, the experience that I got to have at Guide Dogs for the Blind this time around with my second dog, which they always say is the hardest transition, wasn't, because, you know, I had a lot of time to wait, which made it a little bit easier, but also because Anaheim is incredible, and everyone around there made it incredible. Even, like, especially you, Case, honestly. And of course, my family being, like, just sounding boards and getting to FaceTime people to remind me of real life, but also just, like, watch a cartoon. Like, I'm so glad I had you to talk to.
It was so amazing. It was amazing to watch you through this process and to meet him and to, it was just
and
awesome.
to watch me cry every dang day.
Yeah, literally. Yes. It was awesome.
Well, I think I'm all talked out. But, if you've gotten this far and if you've heard all of this, if you have more questions about guide dogs, obviously, we'll probably take a break from the topic and talk about all kinds of other fun stuff on this pod, because that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
But if we get enough questions about guide dogs or any rare topic, send us an email.
Yes.
hello@rarewithflair.com.
Yes, we do try to reply to all the emails. But thank you so much, Cass, for sharing your journey. And I loved being a small part of your big journey. And I'm so excited about Anaheim, and it's so amazing. And thank you, everybody, for listening to both parts. We hope you enjoyed this special 2-part series. And we'll see you next time. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Editing Casey here again to say we will not see you in 2 weeks. We will actually see you next week because of the special 2-parter. We're going to be back next week, and then we'll be back to our bi-weekly schedule.
Bye!